right. Hello, hello. Welcome to the Wednesday Wisdom Show. My name is Ali Taylor. I am the founder and consultant at Wisdom and Wayfinder. I offer done with you consulting to help small businesses grow, profit, and scale with the right systems, strategies, and relationships. And unless you plan to live forever, you don't have enough time to learn everything there is about running, growing, and scaling a business on your own. And so the Wednesday Wisdom Show is where I invite experienced professionals to share their wisdom on running, growing, and scaling that business. And today I have a guest with me here, James Hipkin from Innately. With over 40 years in the marketing and advertising industry, James has a wealth of experience and insights. Since 2010, he has been at the forefront of digital marketing, helping his clients achieve significant growth through innovative online strategies. James has worked with some of the biggest brands, including Sprint, Apple, Wells Fargo Online, Nestle, and Toyota. His clients value his straightforward, no nonsense approach and practical advice. He brings a wealth of stories and lessons from his career, each one filled with valuable insights. And now James focuses on helping small business owners and entrepreneurs grow their business. And he emphasizes the importance of a strong online presence, particularly a well-designed website, which is going to be our topic for today. In order to drive business success. His approach has helped many six-figure businesses scale up to 7 or even 8 figures. And James's stories are not only informative, but they're highly entertaining. I've heard that his humor and his positive attitude make learning about marketing enjoyable. And while he loves to keep things light and fun, he never loses sight of the core objective, which is creating real value for both customers and businesses. James, welcome to the show.
Ali, it's an absolute pleasure being here, but I do have to challenge you on one thing before we even get started.
Yes.
I, for one, plan to live forever.
Well, when you got to tell me your secret. You can tell me after the show, though. That'll be like the behind the scenes thing. Maybe we'll make that like a VIP portion of it.
There you go. We'll make that a VIP thing. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you for being here today. So let's just kind of jump right into it. Tell me, your topic is about the 6 things that, a website needs in order to be effective. Let's talk about some websites that are out there.
Well, yeah, I've been focusing 12 years ago. I had an opportunity to buy a vendor, and my background is in marketing strategy and positioning and advertising campaigns and that sort of thing. And I look at websites. It's the most valuable digital asset that a business owns.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are terrible. And
cannot agree with you more.
And the most common problem that I see in websites, and this is corporate websites, small business websites, is an absence of strategy. They suffer from checkboxism. The business owner is like, well, I need to have a website.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my nephew to make me a website. Look, I have a website. Check the box.
Yeah.
It's sort of sitting off there on left field. There is a website, but it's not connected to anything. And that's the absence of strategy. When the website is connected and supports the journey that your best customers are on, that's how a website can create value for your customers and value for your business. And it can't be done if you just got your nephew to build you a website, right? Or even you did it yourself, because business owners are notorious for, what I call inside out marketing, right? There's all of the stuff that's important to them swirls all around them.
Yes. Yeah.
It's all right there. And they're in this box. But the reality is, to their customers, if they are lucky, their box is not even a dot on the horizon of all of the noise that the customer has to deal with. How do you break through that noise? You don't break through that noise by being inside out. You break through that noise by creating content and messaging that resonates with the customers where they are in their journey. That's outside in.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I found that, I also come from that background of digital marketing and building websites. And a lot of the skills that I picked up over the years were to try to combat against that boxism that you were talking about, where it's
Mhm.
like, yes, I have a website, the business has a website. It's functional in some capacity. You can either fill out a contact form, maybe it's attached to an email address, maybe somebody's reading it. And it has some type of information. Usually it's how the business was started by the grandfather back in 1948 or something like that. So it doesn't tie to what you were referencing, which is the customer story, and helping them cut through all of the noise that they have to deal with on a daily basis,
Right.
just to figure out if this is the right person I should be talking to. Can they actually help me? Do they know enough about my problem to be able to solve it? Those types of things, which is what I feel like a website should do. What about
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah. I mean, I have another thing that I talk about that echoes what you're talking about, Ali. And it's a little controversial, but I want people to stop saying call to action,
Mm,
right? Which of course gets everybody's back up. I've been told my entire career I need to include a call to action, right?
yeah.
I have to have a call to action. Where's my call to action? Right? A call to action is a marketer shouting at a customer and telling them what to do.
Yeah. Like with a megaphone, like go here, go there. Yeah.
People don't want to be shouted at. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to think about the journey that the customer is on. And rather than sticking a call to action on the pathway on the page, you are going to create a pathway that calls out to subsegments of your audience, because everybody's business, there's probably 2 or 3 subsegments that represent the majority of their sales.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to create people like you pathways, headline, an image they can relate to, maybe a sentence or two, and a button. And when they select that pathway, you take
Mm-hmm.
them to a landing page. And what's happened is 2 very powerful and profound things. They have told you exactly who they are, and they've given you permission to give them more information.
Mm.
Now,
So can you? Yep. Go ahead.
effectively, they're exactly the same thing, call to action pathway, effectively. But the mindset shift is really important. A call to action is inside out marketing. It's the marketer shouting at customers. A
Mm-hmm.
pathway is outside in marketing. It's you're supporting the journey that your customer is on.
Yeah. So can you give me an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Um, I did some consulting work with a woman who was a professional speaker. She was a paid keynote speaker. People, I mean, organizations paid her $10,000 to come and do a keynote speech to their meeting or their conference or whatever it might be.
Nice.
And when we analyzed her audience, there were 3 subsegments in her audience. There were the event managers,
Mm-hmm.
hired her to be a paid keynote speaker. And the goal of the event manager was don't make me look bad,
Right.
right? But there were also corporate HR directors who hired her to come into a corporation and corporate environment to help teach the senior executives how to be better communicators. And there were
Mm-hmm.
also senior executives, mostly women, who had been promoted into positions and were finding themselves on stages and they didn't know what to do.
Okay.
Now, other than they're all women, there's nothing in common between those 3 groups. So I coached her to create pathways for each one of these audiences that calls out to those audience so that they can self-select and choose the pathway that makes the most sense for them, and then takes them to a landing page where she can present her her offerings, her services. Now, they're very similar across the 3 pages, but
Hmm.
how she talks about them is going to be very different because she knows who she's talking to. And that's a very different perspective, because if you structure things, again, circling back to the absence of strategy, this is
Hmm.
the application of strategy to this very important digital asset. And that doing this means you're going to create value for the people who are on your webpage, because you're giving them information that they need and want,
Hmm.
as opposed to dumping everything onto the homepage, keeping it generic and letting the audience try to sort through all of this information and figure out what's important to them and what's not important to them.
Right. Yeah. So I'm I'm just thinking from a practical standpoint, like what that actually looks like. And so obviously you're going to change up the language. You might change up like the imagery that's there for each of those different audiences. And even if and correct me if I'm not thinking about this correctly, but if the desired action that I want everyone to take is to book a call with me,
Right.
how I'm going to express that or frame it is going to be different for every audience. So
Exactly.
for the person who's the event organizer, it might be schedule a I don't know event consultation or speaker
Oh,
consultation or something like that. Or,
I'll give you an example. If you're an
yeah.
event program, an event project manager, and you're looking to hire a keynote speaker, you want a
Mhm.
keynote speaker who's not going to make you look bad.
Right.
So on that landing page, you're going to be featuring videos of past performances. So the event
Hmm.
manager can look at those videos and go, oh my God, this person is like doing just, he's got that audience right in the palm of her hand,
Yeah.
right? If you're the corporate HR director, you're going to want to see imagery and video of this person working a room of executives.
Hmm.
So small conference table, half a dozen executives being trained on how to be better communicators.
Yeah. And then maybe some case studies of results that
Exactly.
people have gotten after
And
incurring. Yeah.
testimonials.
Hmm.
One of the key things that on a page is give them a reason to believe.
Yeah.
So if you've got a testimonial from another conference organizer, that goes on the conference project manager page. If you've got a testimonial from an HR director or an executive at a company, that's
Mm.
going to go on their appropriate pages. So you, rather than sticking all of your testimonials in a carousel at the bottom of the page that nobody looks at, you are cherry picking them and tactically parking them in various places all across the website to support the messaging for the page that they're on, because you know who's reading this messaging.
Mm. Yeah, that's you're giving me some ideas of one, not just different things that I need to do on my own website, but conversations I need to have in terms of asking for because I've done some public speaking, but I never thought to get testimonials from the person who organized one of those events as a way to promote myself to other event organizers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. It's about supporting the journey that your audience is on,
Yeah.
versus telling your audience that you were awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, which even if you are, but it just needs to be, it needs to happen in a certain context.
That's it.
Otherwise, it just comes across like you're just being arrogant. You're just trying to promote yourself,
Right.
and I think that's more of the inside out marketing that you're kind of talking
Yep.
about.
That's right. Inside out versus outside in. It's a simple idea when I explain it, but when you
Mhm.
think about it, the vast majority of people don't do it.
Yeah. Now, why do you think that is? That people don't do that?
Um, it's empathy is not a skill that everyone has, and this requires a certain amount of empathy. You
Hmm.
know, the ability to step outside of yourself and look at your at what you're doing from the perspective from another perspective. It's just not and this is where, hiring somebody can be very beneficial. If you hire the right marketing consultant, or you hire the right web design. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've had conversations with clients and they'll look at me and go, no web development team has ever asked me these questions.
Right.
Right. And I'm like, that's what makes us different, is that the technical aspects of building the website, sure, we do all that stuff. But that's table stakes.
Yeah.
You got to be able to do that stuff. What we are bringing to this is we take a very marketing strategy point of view. I mean, if you think about it, I have props here. I can use.
Oh, let's go.
Let's go. Hang on. I wasn't planning to do this today, but it seems to make sense. If you think about it, these are spokes to a bicycle wheel.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hub, right? And I've got a rim here too, but I can't fish it out of a closet. Individually, they're nice, but they don't have much value.
Right.
You connect them together, and you've got the most profound invention in mankind's history, the wheel.
Mm.
The power doesn't come from the individual parts. The power comes from the connections. If you think of your website is the hub, and the social media and digital marketing channels that you're using are the spokes,
Mm-hmm.
and your content marketing strategy is the rim that holds it all together, you've got a cohesive whole that is much more powerful as a result of the connections than it is on its own. The same problem I see in websites, I see in digital marketing plans, an absence of strategy. They're doing all this stuff in all these places, and it's pretty, and it's clever, and it's frequent, and it's awesome. It's not connected to anything. It's not connected to the journey that the customer is on. It's not connected to the positioning on the website. It's not connected. It's just there. And that absence of strategy is a common problem. And when we first met, that's what twigged me to reach out to you and think we need to have this conversation, because I know your focus is so much on, there needs to be a marketing strategy. And we had that conversation, and it's rare and it's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you said that, and it's part of the reason why I switched from focusing on marketing to being a business consultant, because I could see all the ways in which, businesses were focusing on just one aspect, or, you'd have a lot of what I found is that there are often, and it's not malicious, it's not like they're not doing it intentionally, but there are a lot of service providers out there who will tell you that no, the number one thing that you need to focus on is the thing that they're actually good at.
Yeah.
It's not putting the whole strategy together. It's like, no, this one spoke is the thing that's actually going to make your business grow and, scale and profit. But that's the only thing they know. So they're not looking at it from the holistic, full outside perspective of where do all the spokes go? What's the hub, and how does it all fit together?
Yeah. How does it all fit together? Because the power comes from the connections, not from the individual pieces.
Yes.
And that, again, simple idea. I wrote a book, Journey to Success, right? And it's the story of John and his family.
Mm-hmm.
They have a custom bike shop, and they were getting killed by online marketing.
Oh, wow.
And they needed to, figure out how to embrace this. So it was it's a parable. So it's the story of John and his family as they enter into the world of digital marketing and all the mistakes they made and the things they've learned and how they brought in an outside consultant. His name is Kyle. And it's a whole story around this journey that they are on in order to take their business from a small little mom and pop custom bike shop into something that can survive into the next generation because they've embraced what online marketing can do for them. And the hub and spoke idea that I just talked about is one of the genesis behind it. I wrote the book during the pandemic when I had time on my hands, and just published this year on Leap Day, actually.
Oh, nice.
It's available on Amazon, but it's this story is a common story that small business owners need to have that outside perspective that allows them to sort out. It's not about seeing the forest for the trees. It's about sorting out which trees are important and doing a lot of judicious pruning and making sure that everything is healthy and working in concert with each other.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, I'll definitely be sure to link that in the show notes so that everyone can go and purchase a copy of it. Because I think it's, it is it's such a common story of businesses, struggling to embrace digital marketing, to embrace some of these newer methods,
Right.
And being able to put it all together. So,
yeah. Right. And it's also what you called out before. It's about, you've got to, one of the reasons I created Innately, most of our work is large custom websites for corporations, just very big budgets, very complicated, et cetera. I created Innately 6 years ago because small business owners couldn't afford to work with us. And I wanted to create a product that they would make it. So this is more of a semi-custom solution. But the real problem I was trying to solve was small business owners being taken advantage of, which is what you called out before about service providers who are sell them stuff because that's what they do versus what do they need. And when I look at, you're spending $90 or $80 a month for ClickFunnels, and you've got a CRM, and you've got, lead pages, and you're doing Thrivecart and affiliate marketing. You're paying all this money to all these different places. 99% of this stuff can be done with a properly built website.
Yes.
One cost.
Yeah. And most businesses, they have no idea where that money is going for. They don't know what the return is, what value they're getting out of it.
And they have no idea whether this is working or not working, or making sense or not making sense. I mean, it's frightening. And that's why we created Innately, because it gives the business owners an opportunity to access. I mean, we're completely vertically integrated. We manage our own servers. We have our own developers and sysops people.
Nice.
I have content specialists that work with the corporate websites and are available as a support resource for the corporate websites. Well, that same support resource is now available to a small business owner through the Innately subscription. So you're dealing with people who work with, we have websites that get traffic over 7 figures every month. Millions of people. So it's we know it's a roundabout way of saying we actually know what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. Well, so speaking of, you have all those tools and resources that are available for small business owners. What do you think is a barrier to them working with you? Like, what's the and where I'm going with this is, AI is the new buzzword. Everybody's talking about AI. Everybody and their grandmother has some type of AI integration, and I don't even think most people know like what it is they're actually integrating, what it's really doing. They're just like, oh, well, it's got AI.
Right.
It kind of reminds me of I don't know if you've ever seen that movie Idiocracy. There's a scene where they're talking about the plants like whatever the drink is because it's got electrolytes in it. That's how I feel about like AI. Everybody's talking about AI right now.
Right.
But yeah, so what's your take on that, and what do business owners really need to watch out for when it comes to this buzzword?
Is it solving a real problem? If it's a tool that you can use to solve a real problem,
Hmm.
then embrace it.
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple of examples. My content specialists who work with the business owners to create websites through the innately subscription, I mean, they're not designers.
Hmm.
They're very competent. Will do a much better job than business owner can do themselves or their nephew can do, but they're not designers. One of the key aspects of that separates a professionally designed website and an amateur website is the use of color.
Mm.
There's a color strategy idea called the 60-30-10 strategy. It's actually taken from the interior design world, where 60% of the color on a website is background color, 30% is your primary and secondary color, and 10% is your accent.
Hmm.
Okay. I spent about a month working on a prompt that if we put in a primary color, hex code for a primary color, the AI will generate a color palette
Oh wow.
that my content specialist can then use to design a website. And it works so well that I had one of our developers, learn about the OpenAI API, and
Hmm.
we wrote a WordPress plugin, and that plugin has been published now on the WordPress repository,
Oh wow. Okay.
so that anybody can install it. And now it integrates directly into the new WordPress editor, so that you will automatically update the style sheet for the website without needing any action on your part. And that's a good example of AI being used in a practical application to solve a real problem.
Yeah.
Another example that I'm working on right now that's not quite ready for prime time, but soon. Um, you know what an avatar is,
I do. Hmm.
and we've talked about journey maps and the supporting the customer's journey. I've been involved in this for a long time, and typically, if you're hiring a research firm, if you're a brand and you're hiring a research firm to develop an avatar and a buyer's journey map, you might spend 50 grand on research and focus groups and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh
Right?
wow.
So I'm working with a colleague, and we're developing an AI-based tool and a generic questionnaire that any business owner can go out and interview a half a dozen of their existing customers, take the recordings and put it into the system.
Hmm.
And the AI model that we're building, it's going to be closed. You're not dumping information out into the ethers. It's a closed system. But the AI algorithm will analyze the transcripts. First of all, it'll create the transcripts from the audio recording, and then it will analyze the transcript from the audio recording, and it will present back out a fully blown customer avatar and a journey map.
Wow. Okay.
That, if you've got those two pieces of information, this is the key to creating a non-icky marketing funnel. You know who you're talking about demographically. You know what they're like. What are their characteristics like? Are they confident? Are they self-confident? Are they insecure? Who are they as people? You know what their pain is. And then you've mapped their journey from not aware
Hmm.
to what happens in their life that causes them to be aware. What's the process they go through if in the consideration phase when they're doing their research or they're doing their investigation, and then what are the questions they have when they're prospecting, when they're trying to make a choice, between 2 or 3 different options, and then what are the decision drivers around that final decision. That
Yeah.
buyer's journey map, if you can understand those things, you can craft content, you can craft messaging that's going to resonate with each phase of the journey and support that journey. You'll know where to, and you're going to end up with the purchase is no longer a sale.
Hmm.
Next logical step in their journey.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much because it's such a, when I have conversations with some business owners and they start thinking about, marketing strategy or content marketing, or even if it's just social media marketing, they're expecting it to work the way that a sales call would.
Yep.
They're expecting like, oh, well, I published something on social media or I put out a newsletter. Uh, why am I not getting leads? Why am I not getting sales? And it's like, that's not the way that it works.
Right.
And I always try to point back to the 95/5 rule, which came out of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, which talks about, 95% of your audience is not ready to make a purchase
That's
at the
right.
time that you're ready to make that sale. So you've got to create the type of content to nurture them through, not even nurture them, that's not even the right word, to plant seeds in their mind so that when they get to that point that they are ready to make a purchase, your brand, your product, your service is what comes to mind.
Right. Because you're there in a way that brings value.
Yes.
When I talk about relationship marketing, I talk about the concept of relationship equity.
Hmm.
And this is equity that exists in the relationship that goes beyond the functional and transactional benefits of a product.
Yes.
That relationship equity is what separates a product with a name from a brand. There are lots and lots of products with names that are masquerading
Hmm.
as brands,
Yeah.
but they're not putting any effort into building a relationship, and therefore they're not really a brand. They're just a product with a name.
Yeah,
And
because they think branding is just that. It's just the name that I call something, the colors that I use. Maybe I throw an icon or a mascot onto it, and I put the little register the trademark symbol, and then now I have a brand.
no, you don't. You
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
product with a name.
yeah.
Yeah. But that concept of relationship equity and the 5 relationship marketing principles, which I originally wrote back in the 1990s, and if you do a Google search for relationship marketing principles, you'll see my writing on this.
Wow.
This concept is really, really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And when I was working with the folks at Sprint Long Distance, and we originally received the RFP from them, we almost turned it down because
Hmm.
when I looked at the numbers, they were about 18 months away from going out of business.
Oh, wow.
They were losing customers faster than they were gaining customers. So we sat down with them and we actually pitched the business and we won the assignment, which was awesome. And I sat down with the marketing director, and the first thing I said to him was, "You need to stop spending money,"
Mm-hmm.
which like shocked him.
Especially since they just hired you. It's like, wait, where do you want me to stop spending money? Like,
Okay, what you need to do is we need to understand who
yeah.
are the 20% of your customers who are driving 80% of your revenue.
Yes. Yeah.
We need to understand what's motivating them. We need to understand how to build relationship with them. And they accepted our program, our recommendation. It took about a year because big company.
They move slow. Yeah.
It was a $2 billion base of business, right? That's B, not a, it took about a year to put the program into place and a lot of testing and some research and the rest of it. But over the course of subsequent years of spending less money marketing, because we were only marketing to about 20% of the audience,
Mm.
we were generating a 20% revenue growth on a $2 billion base of business.
Wow, it's Fantastic.
by focusing on the customers who really cared
Yeah.
and building relationship equity with those customers, which made them more loyal. It made them more willing to see the marketing materials. It made them more willing to buy more products and services from the company. It made them more willing to tell their friends and neighbors about it. The other 80%, they were busily being spun by the MCI friends and family, and AT&T was sending
Hmm.
checks, and they would take whatever the promotion was coming next because they had no relationship with the brand. And it
Right.
just wasn't that important to them. So they just took whatever was cheap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that,
which happens with a lot of consumers.
right. Yeah. We did the same. I worked on a program with Toyota. We were managing the marketing in Northern California, and they were launching the new Prius. This is when they went from that kind of boxy model to the more teardrop shaped model.
Yeah.
And everybody else in the country was marketing the Prius as a hybrid car that was good for the environment. Right? We didn't.
Hmm.
We marketed the Prius in Northern California as an economical family car because it was a hybrid.
Mm.
Okay, Ollie, we were
Yep. I got it.
the rest of the country was speaking to the early adopters. Well, the early adopters didn't need to be spoken to. They were already convinced. We were speaking to the early majority, which was open to the idea of a hybrid vehicle, but needed a more practical reason why it should be part of their choice.
Which for them, it was saving money to be able to take care of their
An
family.
economical family
Yeah.
car because
Yeah.
it was a hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay. We sold more Priuses in Northern California than the rest of the country combined.
Yeah.
Understanding your audience, having that avatar, understanding the journey that they are on, the questions they're asking,
Mhm.
creating marketing that speaks to those questions, that resonates with who they are. That's what gets effective. When I worked with Apple, um, and I worked on the team that launched the original iPod, and
Oh, okay.
and I remember so many times hearing the conversations around, we're not selling a thing. We're selling 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Pocket. Yeah. I always love that piece of whenever that comes up in my LinkedIn feed, it's such a brilliant piece of marketing, but also just a philosophy and a mindset shift.
1,000 songs in your pocket is outside in marketing.
Yeah.
We have a cool device is inside out marketing.
Right.
Right.
And what's crazy is how far from that Apple has really gotten.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's like the latest for the iPhone 15, and I think the word just says "newphoria." Like just the fact that it's new is why people should be excited about it. I'm like, this is not the Apple that I grew up with in the early 2000s, where like the U2 song and where it was like really integrated into your life. It was
Well,
it wasn't about the device. Yeah.
it's a funny full circle moment, but my son, who is a designer and illustrator in San Francisco, is now working for Apple.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He
Is he
says
slipping copies of your book under the executive doors? At least I hope he is.
he says there's stuff going on, but I can't tell you because then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane. And yeah, I think what happens is there's just a lot of messages that are out there, and no fault of the business owner. They're looking at how can they grow their revenue. If they have employees, they're just trying to make payroll, all those different things. So, again, that's like part of what I'm trying to do is to help them sift through like what are the right messages to listen to,
Right.
And going back to what you were saying about AI is, does it solve a real problem? Also helping them identify what's the real problem.
That needs to be solved. That's right. I
Yeah,
mean, and this concept will work for any business. I mean, one of my superpowers, if I can be so bold,
absolutely.
is the ability to distill this experience that I have from these big brands and big budgets into principles.
Yes.
Because principles will apply regardless of the size of your business. I was getting my haircut, and my barber started talking to me about his business.
Hmm.
And he was struggling with attracting. And I said, what makes you unique? And he's like, he didn't really know because
Hmm.
he cuts hair, right? And I laughed and said, I'm like a lawyer. I only ask questions I know the answer to. And I said, what makes you unique and what you should be promoting? The hair cutting is table stakes. You got to do that well.
Yeah.
Look out your front door. What is outside your front door? And he looked out the front door and he went, there's a street? Yep. What's between
Hmm.
your front door and the street? He said, a parking lot. Somebody wants to get their hair cut. They want to get in and they want to get out. You're a barber. You're dealing with men.
Hmm.
What makes you unique is you've got the best parking of any barber in the community. You've got
Mm, interesting.
a ton of free parking immediately in front of your front door. That's your unique selling proposition. You can claim it, you can own it, and it matters to the people you're trying to attract.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And now he can never move, obviously. But if he does, he can find another unique selling proposition. Let me know if you agree. I think you can always you're not stuck with
Right.
any unique selling proposition or value proposition. You can
And
always
you're
change
more likely to find it. What I did there with my barber was I took
it.
myself out of his business and I put myself into the mind of his best customer.
Yeah.
What are they struggling with? The other thing that he does, which most of the other barbers in town don't do, which is one of the reasons why I'm there, is he will schedule appointments.
Mm,
So I don't have to, I can walk in and know that within 5 minutes of walking through the door, I'm going to be sitting in a chair and getting my hair cut.
yeah.
That matters to me.
Yeah. So ease of access, being able to get in and out, park, being able to schedule that, like it's like look good on your own dime, on your own schedule. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
That's as opposed to, having to spend 15 minutes looking for a place to park, walking into a place and then waiting in line for your turn to get your haircut.
Yeah.
Which would you prefer to do?
Oh, I schedule an appointment. I text my barber. I text him and I'm like, "Hey, what openings do you have this week?" And I will build my schedule around that because
Sure.
that's
Yeah. But that's outside in versus
yeah,
inside out. And so these principles apply regardless of the size of your business.
yeah, awesome. So looking back over your career, and I just love the breadth and the depth of the perspective that you have. What's been one of the most surprising shifts or things that has come up that you've seen through your career, and what do you kind of foresee for the next couple of years for businesses to really look out for?
Um, the surprising thing, I think, is speed. There's a lot of things happening really fast. At
Hmm.
least that's the perception. the shiny thing syndrome is just getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for folks to break out of the shiny thing syndrome. But when you step back and look at the big picture, marketing really hasn't changed since the first time somebody bartered something for somebody with somebody for something.
Yeah.
It really, the principles haven't really changed. The tools you have to execute those principles, they're evolving fast, and there's so many things, and that noise is a really key thing. I often say to folks, it's a common question, last question on a
Mhm.
call like this. What would be your last bit of advice?
Mhm.
And that's would be, stop trying to boil the damn ocean.
I say that phrase all the time. I'm so glad somebody else said it.
And this is what I'm talking about. The principles haven't changed. Don't get caught up with all of the swirl of the rapid change of technology that's going, and AI that we talked about earlier is another
Yeah.
good example. If AI is being used to solve a real problem, then use it to solve the real problem, but don't use it just because it's there. And understand what your principles are. Understand
Mm.
the value that you're bringing to the marketplace, and understand what your customers are looking for. I remember another situation that we brought the team from Sprint up into the offices in Chicago, and the creative director had put examples of all of the work we'd done in the last 18 months up on the boardroom wall. So it did with push pins, right? Lots and
Mhm.
lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff. And she turned to the marketing team and said, "Do you see the problem?" And they're all like, "Oh, it's great. You guys do good work." And then she took a ribbon with 2 push pins and she put that into the wall at a certain spot on the
Yeah.
wall. And she turned to them and she said, "Now do you see the problem?" And they were still completely mystified. They did not see the problem. She picked a piece off the wall to the left of the ribbon and she read it. And she picked the piece off the wall to the right of the ribbon and she read it. And she said, "Now do you see the problem?" And they were like, "No." And she said, they're the same. And she said, "Exactly. That's the problem. The
Mm.
first piece I read was a piece of prospecting communication. The second piece I read was a piece of customer communication.
Mm.
We're using exactly the same tone of voice
Yeah.
with our customers as we're using with our prospects." The analogy she used was, and this was back in the 1980s, so we weren't quite as politically correct back then. Um, you know, the language you use in a bar when you're chatting up a young lady is not going to be the same language you use with that same young lady 6 months into your relationship.
No.
And yet here we are. That's exactly what we're doing with the marketing.
Yeah. You're trying to talk to everyone exactly the same. You're trying to talk to people as if they're not going through a journey or changing with you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that simple idea of
Mhm.
understanding the journey that your buyers are on, and that's why we are working on this using AI as a tool to make this accessible to any business owner. They don't have to spend $50,000 on a research project with a smart
Mhm.
researcher. They can do this for a much more reasonable cost. Now, is it as good as the smart researcher would do? Probably not.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter how good it is if you don't use it.
Or it doesn't matter. Which would you rather have, 80% or 90% of the way there? and you have it versus nothing.
Right. Yeah, I always tell people that the best tool, the best strategy is the one that you actually use.
There you go. Absolutely. Hallelujah. Yep. Enough aiming already. Shoot a little.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're coming up on time. You probably kind of alluded to this already, but I always like to close out with just asking, what's one piece of wisdom that you would give to a business owner, an entrepreneur who's on this journey right now? Yeah.
I think I'm going to give you one last website tip.
Okay.
I frequently, I'll ask a business owner, what's the primary objective of your website? And they'll give me like 15 different things that they want the website to do. And then we'll have a conversation around the definition of the word primary. And then they'll hone in, well, I need conversions. Okay. And everybody nods their head, which is what you're doing right now. It's almost always wrong.
Yeah.
The primary objective of most websites is not conversion, it's confirmation. The consumer has gotten to the website because they've heard about you through some means or other. Their neighbor has told them about, or they saw something on social media, or they read something somewhere, or they go to the website for confirmation that you understand the problem that they're trying to solve and that you have a legitimate solution that's believable. They are looking, their first goal is confirmation, and the primary objective of the website should be confirmation. It doesn't mean that conversion can't happen, but it's not going to happen if you don't
have confirmation.
Have confirmation first. You need to engage that reader. You need to engage that audience by resonating with the journey that they are on, and then draw them along a pathway to a solution that makes sense for them with sufficient reason to believe that they can understand, okay, I can be confident that I can contact this person, and it's not going to be a waste of my time.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. James, thank you so much for this conversation today. So many good nuggets. I am going to try to pull together everything and put it into a format or a checklist or something that people can really digest and understand. But so much great wisdom here. I appreciate you coming onto the show and sharing it. And I'll be sure to link your book and other resources and assets in the show notes. But James, thank you for being here today.
Hey, it was my pleasure, Ollie, and I'd love to come back, love to talk to you some more. There's so much more we could explore. And if folks have questions, like, get them out there. Let's hear from people and what are they struggling with? I've been doing this a long time, and I love the way you think about these things. I think there's a lot of value there. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely have you back on the show. I think we'll schedule it out, but I could see sometimes that we go through different cycles in business, and I think it's important to hit them kind of when they're starting to think about these things again. So let's interrupt the noise and try to give them valuable information and insights and direction on where to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. Well, take care. Thank you again. And I will catch everyone else next week.